In 1985, North and South brought together some of the biggest stars of its time in a story of friendship, betrayal, and survival through war. But behind that legendary miniseries lies a far more emotional truth. By 2026, most of the cast have sadly passed away, and their real lives reveal tragedies and shocking downfalls no one ever expected. Join us as we uncover their secrets and honor the legacies they left behind. Kirstie Alley as Virgilia Hazard. Kirstie Alley was born on January 12, 1951, in Wichita, Kansas. At 34 years old, she played Virgilia Hazard, a fiercely passionate and politically driven character in North and South. Her performance brought emotional volatility and strong ideological tension to the series, making her character stand out in a story dominated by war, loyalty, and family conflict. As her acting career slowly gained momentum, life outside the screen began to carry its own emotional weight. The most devastating turning point came in 1981, when her mother was killed in a drunk driving accident, and her father was critically injured in the same crash. This tragedy deeply affected her mental health, leaving long-lasting emotional trauma that followed her through adulthood and shaped many of her later struggles. From that pain, her personal life became increasingly complicated. She entered two marriages that were heavily tested by emotional instability, career pressure, and personal loss. Her second marriage to actor Parker Stevenson lasted more than a decade, during which they adopted two children, but repeated miscarriages and growing distance created fractures in their relationship. The marriage eventually ended in divorce in 1997, followed by a difficult custody and financial settlement that placed further strain on her public image and emotional well-being. Kirstie Alley passed away on December 5, 2022, at the age of 71 after a private battle with colon cancer. She was best known for her Emmy and Golden Globe-winning role in Cheers, which defined the peak of her career. At the time of her passing, her net worth was estimated at around $40 million. She was laid to rest privately, leaving behind a legacy shaped by success, personal tragedy, and a lifelong struggle to balance fame with inner pain. Patrick Swayze as Ori Main. Patrick Swayze was born on August 18, 1952, in Houston, Texas. At 33 years old, he played Ori Main, the Southern officer in the miniseries. His performance brought quiet intensity and emotional depth to the character, turning him into one of the most memorable figures of the miniseries. As filming ended, the image of success on screen contrasted sharply with the growing pressure in his personal life. His marriage to Lisa Niemi, which began in 1975, had always been the emotional center of his world, but the demands of rising fame slowly began to test that bond. Long working hours, constant travel, and the physical strain of action-heavy roles created distance between them, even though Lisa remained a stabilizing force throughout his early career. What followed was a far more painful chapter that changed his life completely. The death of his father in 1982 left a deep emotional scar, and years later the suicide of his sister in 1994 pushed him into severe depression and alcoholism. These struggles led him into rehabilitation and a temporary retreat from Hollywood, where he tried to rebuild himself through ranch life and strict discipline. Even after returning to acting, his health became a growing concern when he was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer in 2007, yet he continued working through chemotherapy with remarkable determination. Patrick Swayze passed away on September 14, 2009, at the age of 57 due to pancreatic cancer. His ashes were kept in a private ceremony in California, honoring his wish for intimacy rather than spectacle. At the time of his death, his net worth was estimated at around $40 million, leaving behind not just financial success, but a legacy defined by resilience, pain, and unforgettable screen presence. David Carradine as Justin Lamott. David Carradine was born on December 8, 1936, in Hollywood, California. At 49 years old, he played Justin Lamott, a dark and controlling plantation owner in North and South. His performance added a sharp layer of tension and menace to the series, making him one of the most unsettling and memorable antagonists in the entire story. As his career expanded, Carradine's personal life became increasingly unstable and chaotic. He went through 5 marriages, including to Donnelly Becht and later actress Barbara Hershey, and experienced repeated relationship breakdowns filled with emotional conflict and separation. His love life was often marked by turbulence, infidelity rumors, and long periods of instability, which mirrored the unpredictable nature of his Hollywood journey. Over the years, his life was also heavily affected by legal issues and substance-related struggles. Carradine faced multiple arrests, ranging from drug possession to driving under the influence, and incidents involving erratic behavior that damaged his public image. Despite his success in Kung Fu and later revival in Kill Bill, his personal battles with addiction and impulsive behavior created a long shadow over his career. David Carradine passed away on June 3, 2009, at the age of 72 in Bangkok, Thailand. He was found in his hotel room under circumstances later ruled as accidental death by autoerotic asphyxiation, though initial reports caused worldwide controversy and speculation. He was laid to rest in Forest Lawn, Hollywood Hills, leaving behind a legacy defined by cult fame, controversy, and one of the most mysterious endings in Hollywood history. David Ogden Stiers as Congressman Sam Green. David Ogden Stiers was born on October 31, 1942, in Peoria, Illinois. At 43 years old, he played Congressman Sam Green, a political congressman in the miniseries. His performance added a refined authority to the Civil War storyline, strengthening the political tension within the series. That role came during a period when Stiers was already establishing himself as one of television's most versatile dramatic and voice actors. As his acting career expanded, Stiers also carried a deeply private emotional life, shaped by internal conflict and isolation. He spent decades working in television, film, and Broadway, but for much of his life he struggled with hiding his true identity in Hollywood. For years he lived under fear that being openly gay could damage his career, especially since much of his income came from family-oriented productions and voice roles. That silence created emotional pressure that stayed with him for most of his working life. His career, however, continued to grow steadily despite personal struggles. He became widely recognized for his role in MASH as Major Charles Emerson Winchester III, earning critical acclaim and Emmy nominations. He also became a defining voice in Disney animation, contributing to films such as Beauty and the Beast and Lilo and Stitch. In his later years, he stepped into more narration and television roles while also working as a conductor, balancing multiple artistic paths while gradually stepping away from mainstream acting. David Ogden Stiers passed away on March 3, 2018, at the age of 75 due to complications from bladder cancer. He died at his home in Newport, Oregon, leaving behind an estimated net worth of around $5 million. He was remembered not only for his iconic voice and performances, but also for quietly supporting arts organizations in his will. Hal Holbrook as Abraham Lincoln. Hal Holbrook was born on February 17, 1925, in Cleveland, Ohio. At 60 years old, he played Abraham Lincoln, the iconic American president in North and South. That role came during a career where Holbrook was already widely respected for his commanding stage presence and long-standing portrayal of Mark Twain. As his career evolved, Holbrook built a deeply personal life shaped by both love and loss. He was married 3 times, but his most meaningful relationship was with actress Dixie Carter, whom he married in 1984. Their marriage lasted until her death in 2010, and her loss became one of the most painful turning points in his later years. He often described the loneliness that followed as one of the hardest emotional struggles of his life, especially after decades of shared work and companionship. His final years were marked not by scandal or decline, but by quiet endurance and continued artistic dedication. Even into his 80s and 90s, Holbrook remained active in film and television, appearing in acclaimed projects such as Into the Wild, 2007, which earned him an Academy Award nomination at age 82. Despite aging, he continued working steadily, maintaining a reputation as one of the most respected actors of his generation while gradually stepping back from stage performance. Hal Holbrook passed away on January 23, 2021, at the age of 95 at his home in Beverly Hills. His death came quietly from natural causes, with no public controversy surrounding it. He was laid to rest in McLemoresville, Tennessee, beside his wife Dixie Carter, leaving behind a legacy defined by longevity, artistic excellence, and one of the most enduring theatrical careers in American entertainment history. Elizabeth Taylor as Madame Conti. Elizabeth Taylor was born on February 27, 1932, in London, England. At 53 years old, she played Madame Conti, a wealthy, aristocratic mother in the miniseries. Her performance carried immense screen power, reinforcing the prestige of the production and reminding audiences why she was considered one of Hollywood's greatest legends. As her fame grew, so did the intensity of her personal life, which became one of the most publicized in entertainment history. Taylor's romantic life was defined by 8 marriages, including high-profile relationships with Conrad Hilton Jr., Michael Wilding, Mike Todd, Eddie Fisher, and Richard Burton. Her relationship with Burton in particular became a global media phenomenon filled with passion, scandal, breakups, and reconciliation, turning their love story into one of Hollywood's most infamous sagas. Her life was also shaped by long-term health battles that began early and never fully stopped. Taylor underwent more than 100 medical procedures throughout her lifetime, including hip replacements, brain tumor treatment, and multiple surgeries related to chronic illness. Alongside physical pain, she also struggled with alcohol and prescription drug dependency, especially during emotionally turbulent periods following major losses and divorces. Despite these challenges, she remained active in film, television, and humanitarian work, particularly in HIV/AIDS advocacy. Elizabeth Taylor passed away on March 23, 2011, at the age of 79 due to congestive heart failure. She was laid to rest at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California, in a private service. Beyond her legendary film career, she remains remembered for her humanitarian activism, especially her groundbreaking work in AIDS awareness, which reshaped how celebrities engage in global health causes. Robert Mitchum as Patrick Flynn. Robert Mitchum was born on August 6, 1917, in Bridgeport, Connecticut. At 68 years old, he played Patrick Flynn, a senior family patriarch figure in North and South. His performance carried the weight of authority and quiet toughness, adding emotional gravity to the generational conflicts within the story. By that time, Mitchum was already regarded as one of Hollywood's defining anti-hero actors. As his career evolved, Mitchum's personal life was shaped by both stability and controversy. He married Dorothy Spence in 1940, and despite multiple publicized rumors of affairs with well-known actresses, their marriage lasted until his death. Their long relationship survived the pressures of Hollywood fame, creating a rare sense of permanence in a career often marked by turbulence. However, his life was also shadowed by long-standing struggles with substance-related scandals and legal issues. In 1948, he was arrested for marijuana possession, an event that briefly threatened his career, but instead reinforced his bad boy image in Hollywood. Throughout his life, he continued to battle heavy smoking and alcohol use, which eventually contributed to serious health complications in his later years. Robert Mitchum passed away on July 1, 1997, at the age of 79 due to lung cancer and emphysema. He died at his home in Santa Barbara, California, with his wife Dorothy by his side. At the time of his death, his net worth was estimated at around $10 million. He was cremated, and his ashes were scattered in the Pacific Ocean, leaving behind a legacy defined by film noir mastery, anti-hero charisma, and one of the most iconic careers in classic American cinema. Gene Simmons, As Clarissa Maine, Jean Simmons was born on January 31st, 1929, in Islington, London. At 56 years old, she played Clarissa Maine, the mother of Ori Maine in the miniseries. Her performance brought emotional warmth and quiet strength to the family storyline, grounding the series with a sense of dignity and emotional depth. That role came after decades of a celebrated career in both British and Hollywood cinema. As her career developed, Simmons experienced both international success and personal emotional challenges behind the screen. She was married twice, first to actor Stuart Granger and later to director Richard Brooks, but both marriages ended in divorce. Her relationships were often affected by emotional distance and the pressures of Hollywood life, despite her efforts to maintain a stable family environment while raising her two daughters, Tracy Granger and Kate Brooks. The most difficult chapter of her later life came during the 1980s, when she struggled with alcohol dependency and entered treatment at the Betty Ford Center. Even after recovery, she continued working in film and television, taking on respected roles in projects such as The Thorn Birds and later voice work in international productions. Despite personal struggles, she remained professionally active and admired for her elegance and discipline as an actress. Jean Simmons passed away on January 22, 2010, at the age of 80 due to lung cancer. She died at her home in Santa Monica, California, with an estimated net worth of around $5 million. She was laid to rest at Highgate Cemetery in London, leaving behind a legacy defined by classic Hollywood elegance, award-nominated performances, and a career that bridged British cinema and Hollywood's golden age. James Reed as George Hazard. James Reed was born on July 31, 1953, in Buffalo, New York. At 32 years old, he played George Hazard, the Union brother in North and South. His performance brought emotional balance and moral contrast to the series, helping anchor the story's focus on friendship and divided loyalties during the Civil War era. That role became the foundation of his recognition in television drama. As his career developed, Reed built a steady path in television while also facing personal emotional challenges behind the scenes. He was married twice, first in the late 1970s before divorcing in 1983, and later to actress Wendy Kilbourne in 1988, whom he met through the industry. Their relationship became one of the more stable Hollywood marriages, though it was marked by deep personal pain when the couple experienced the loss of a child through stillbirth. Despite emotional setbacks, Reed continued to work consistently in television across multiple decades. He became well known for his recurring role in Charmed as Victor Bennett, and later appeared in long-running soap operas such as Days of Our Lives and General Hospital. Alongside acting, he also expanded into directing and continued to work steadily in both daytime and primetime television, maintaining a reliable presence rather than pursuing celebrity spotlight. As of 2026, James Reed is 73 years old and continues to remain active in the entertainment industry in selective television roles while also focusing on family life. With an estimated net worth of around $3 million, he is still recognized for his contribution to North and South and for sustaining a long, stable career in American television over several decades. Johnny Cash as John Brown. Johnny Cash was born on February 26, 1932, in Kingsland, Arkansas. At 53 years old, he played John Brown, the abolitionist father in the miniseries. His deep, haunting voice and natural intensity gave the role a raw, emotional weight that strengthened the series' darker themes of conflict and redemption. As his career grew into legend, Cash's personal life was shaped by both deep love and long-standing emotional struggle. He first married Vivian Liberto in 1954, and they had 4 daughters together, but the marriage eventually collapsed under the pressure of drug addiction, constant touring, and emotional distance. During this period, his substance abuse worsened, creating repeated breakdowns in both his family life and career stability. Later, his relationship with June Carter became the defining emotional turning point of his life, and their marriage in 1968 brought both stability and continued struggles as they worked through decades of addiction and recovery together. The most painful years of Cash's life were marked by severe health and addiction battles. He suffered from long-term drug dependency and later developed Shy-Drager syndrome, a degenerative neurological disorder that slowly weakened his body. At the same time, the death of his brother Jack during childhood remained a lifelong emotional wound, often reflected in the sorrowful tone of his music. Despite these struggles, he continued recording powerful works, including gospel and spiritual albums that reflected his inner conflict and faith. Johnny Cash passed away on September 12, 2003, at the age of 71 due to complications from diabetes. He died in Nashville, Tennessee, with his wife June having passed only months earlier that same year. He was laid to rest at Hendersonville Memory Gardens, leaving behind a legacy as the Man in Black, a voice of pain, redemption, and spiritual truth in American music history. Genie Francis as Brett Main. Genie Francis was born on May 26, 1962, in Englewood, New Jersey. At 23 years old, she played Brett Main, the sister of Ori Main in North and South. Her performance brought emotional softness and inner conflict to the family storyline, helping deepen the human side of the Civil War narrative. As her career developed, Francis became one of the biggest stars in daytime television, but her personal life was heavily affected by the pressures of fame at a very young age. She became widely known for her role as Laura Spencer on General Hospital, a character that turned her into a global soap opera icon. However, behind that success, she later revealed that early fame exposed her to substance abuse issues, as well as emotional struggles tied to the intense public attention she experienced during her teenage and early adult years. Her personal challenges continued into adulthood, including long-term battles with depression and difficulties managing weight and self-image under constant media scrutiny. Despite these struggles, she managed to rebuild stability in her life through her marriage to actor Jonathan Frakes in 1988, whom she met through earlier television projects. Their relationship became one of the more stable partnerships in Hollywood, and they built a family together while she continued balancing acting with personal recovery and growth. As of 2026, Genie Francis is 64 years old and still active in the entertainment industry, primarily returning in recurring roles on General Hospital while also participating in Hallmark film projects. Today, she remains a respected figure in daytime television, known not only for her iconic role but also for her long career resilience through fame, addiction recovery, and personal reinvention. Philip Casnoff as Elkanah Bent. Philip Casnoff was born on August 3, 1949, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. At 36 years old, he played Elkanah Bent, the ruthless Confederate brother-in-law in the miniseries. His performance delivered one of the most intimidating and manipulative roles in the series, making Bent a central source of tension and psychological conflict throughout the story. As his career developed, Casnoff built a strong reputation in theater and television, particularly on Broadway, where he earned recognition and award nominations for his stage work. Unlike many of his co-stars, his career remained relatively steady and grounded, with a focus on acting craft rather than celebrity exposure. His role as Elkanah Bent, however, became the defining performance that audiences most strongly associate with his name. His personal life remained largely private and stable compared to many Hollywood figures. He married actress Roxanne Hart, and together they raised 2 sons. Of course, Casnoff maintained a relatively low-profile family life, avoiding major public scandals or media controversies throughout his career. As of 2026, Philip Casnoff is 77 years old and remains largely retired from major screen acting, with occasional involvement in theater-related projects. With an estimated net worth of around $2 million, he is remembered primarily for his chilling performance as Elkanah Bent in North and South. Terri Garber as Ashton Maine. Terri Garber was born on December 28, 1960 in Miami, Florida. At 25 years old, she played Ashton Maine, the rebellious sister of Ori Main in North and South, 1985. Her performance brought sharp charisma and emotional unpredictability to the family dynamic, making Ashton one of the most memorable and controversial roles in the miniseries. As her career began to rise after the success of North and South, Garber quickly became recognized for playing glamorous and complex women on television. However, the pressure of sudden fame created instability in her personal life. Her first marriage to screenwriter Christopher Hager ended in divorce in 1989, after years of emotional strain and growing distance. Her second marriage also collapsed, reflecting a pattern of relationships affected by career pressure and personal challenges during her rising fame. Behind the screen success, Garber faced serious personal struggles that shaped her later life. During her early years in New York, she battled substance abuse issues, which she later described as a major turning point in her life. After overcoming addiction, she continued working in television, appearing in soap operas such as Dynasty, Santa Barbara, and General Hospital, but her career never again reached the same peak as her breakout role in the 1980s. As of 2026, Terri Garber is 65 years old and still living. After stepping back from mainstream acting, she shifted her focus toward entrepreneurship, co-founding a handmade soap business called Sisters Alchemy with her sister. With an estimated net worth of around $1.5 million, she is now known both for her iconic role as Ashton Main and for rebuilding her life through business after the challenges of fame, addiction recovery, and multiple divorces. So, North and South gave us one of the most unforgettable historical dramas in television history, bringing together a massive ensemble of stars whose lives were filled with both triumph and tragedy. But after everything you've seen, which lives changed your opinion the most over the decades? If you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss more emotional cast updates and untold Hollywood stories.